Okay, folks, this is House Education, Wednesday, March 25th. The committee is going to spend some time with Legislative Council this morning to go over, get a better understanding of the Chapter 11 processes for creating merger study committees and their work and sort of how the processes move, potentially in visual form. I think we were promised some amazing graphics.
AI can do all that for you now.
This is a rough morning already.
Tough crowd here.
Even I can make slides. That's nice.
I've been checking. I was showing you something fun. Your face. Wow.
Not what I need. I'm Bessie James, Office of Legislative Counsel. So I did prepare a chart. All I did is cut and paste the language from the statute. And I did that very specifically because there are so many words that have meaning. I was finding it hard to summarize accurately without leaving out details. So I just cut and pasted. So there's a lot of words, but I think that they are all important. So there is a study committee membership chart on Forte. So if you're looking at it thinking, why did she organize it this way? I don't know. This is what you got. So I will preface all of this by saying you can make changes, permanent changes to existing law, or you can make temporary changes to the process you are trying to create in your committee bill, or both. So none of this is set in stone. I mean, this is current law. So if you made no changes, either in perpetuity in the green books or in a piece of session law in your committee bill, this is what would be applicable to the field if you said, okay, talk amongst yourselves and form study committees. But you have the ability to change it. So, and I tried not to bog us down with references to statute, but this is all from this is all, let's see, sorry, no. This is all from section 706. This is what I'm scrolling through is what we're about to look at in the chart. Bill, okay. So we've got the type of, and this is where I think, and I just talked to your chair, and just to spoil things a little bit, what I am going to be working on, assuming there are no emergencies before third reading, if you're looking his bill. While you guys are on the floor in your joint assembly, is starting to work on a list of all of the decision points that we've talked about, or that I think I would like to flag for you, and you can, ignore them or tell me I did a good job. The way Chapter 11 is organized and drafted is that the study committee is being formed starting with a meeting of the minds, right? 2 or more school districts have decided amongst themselves, or they've been petitioned by their voters to voluntarily form this study committee. And so they're already kind of on the path to some sort of decision-making process. And that includes starting with what type of union school district the study committee is exploring. So there's unified union school districts. Remember, I'm going to stop sharing for a second. There's unified union school districts, which are school districts that are made up of 2 or more towns that are organized to provide pre-K through 12 education. And that can be any combination of operation and tuitioning for any combination of grades. It could be all tuitioning, it could be all operation, it could be some tuitioning and some operation. There are also union elementary districts and union high school districts, which are also school districts that are formed by 2 or more municipalities, but they are organized to provide education in less than all grades. And the name elementary or high school should give you an idea when you're looking at the name of a school district, which grades they are organized to provide education for.
So, as we go to prepare our work, you know, I would say our goal, that I think it's been the goal of the AOE, governor, or whatever bill we come up with, is to create unified union school districts, pre-K to 12. So whatever language should probably reflect that, because when you start creating districts lower than pre-K to 12, you start increasing the number of SUs. Yeah. But,
I'm sorry to ask, can you just, maybe you even, like, everything you just said, the different kinds, like, is that written down somewhere?
Yes. I'm trying to think of, I mean, it's, so here, let's look at chapter 11 and the definitions. So I'm going to make a note that this is a policy decision for you guys on potentially adding language to clarify that the goal of these study committees should be the formation of unified union school districts. I'm going to flag that as a policy decision. Okay, so definitions. We've got member district is going to be important. I've got that at the bottom of our chart. We're not going to look at it right now. Okay, unified union school district. A union school district organized to provide for the education of the district's resident students in all grades pre-K through 12.
Okay, so I see now where you were kind of branching off and saying it could be this, could be this, could be this.
Yep.
Okay.
Unified union school district just means it's organized to provide education for all grades. It doesn't tell you how they provide the education.
Yep.
And then right below that is Union Elementary School District and Union High School District, mean a union school district organized to provide for the education of the district's resident students in fewer than all grades. And the way you figure out what a school district is by its name. It will say such and such Union Elementary School District, and you know that it is organized to provide education for its resident students in less than all grades. I think some Union Elementary School districts might go up to 8th grade and some might stop at 5th grade. Like, I think there's a variation, even though elementary school and high school education is defined as a certain subset of grades. When you see the designation of Union Elementary or Union High School, just know that it's only organized to provide for half the grades.
Go ahead,
So a concrete example, maybe, when the merger happened, where I taught in Orleans Central Supervisory Union. The 6 elementary school districts got together, merged together, and we became Lake Region Union Elementary Middle School. That's
Yes.
its name, and Lake Region High School maintained, it was Lake Region High School District, and those 2 new districts were within the supervisory union.
Yeah, 2 districts, 2
So
separate
our
boards.
name, elementary, middle, kind of told the story of who we were providing.
Go ahead, Newland.
So 7th and 8th grade, that's considered elementary.
Middle. That's why we were elementary, middle school. It's not defined.
We probably shouldn't get, yeah, it's because middle school could be 6 to 8
There is,
or 9.
there is Title 16 does have a definition
Yeah,
for, am I sharing my screen? Can you see what I'm doing right now?
it's a little squishy.
Secondary, elementary education means a program of public school education adapted to the needs of students in pre-K, kindergarten, and the first 6 grades, 1 through 6. Secondary education is a program of public school education of 6 years adapted to the needs of students who have completed their elementary education, so 7 through 12. Those are the definitions for secondary, high school, and elementary education. However, the fabulous example that Rep. Quimby just gave. The Lake Region Union Elementary / Middle School District is organized to provide K through 8. The high school district is organized to provide 9 through 12.
And we do have a pre-K program that people can feed into.
So I would say, for the sake of this conversation, you have a policy choice to make on whether you are providing guidance or setting expectations. I think those have the potential to be two different things. For what kind of union school districts the study committees that you are requiring to be formed shall explore. Are you going to give them full range of the options, but encourage them to explore unified union school districts? Or are you going to say it is a unified union school district or nothing? Or a unified union school district, and if you make these findings, then you may explore a union elementary or a union high school. I mean, the world really is your oyster as far as the policy choices you can make there, as far as how prescriptive or not prescriptive you get. But I think that, again, the example that Rep. Quimby gave is a great example of a union elementary school and a union high school district. They're two separate boards. They are two separate municipalities, which means there's two separate tax rates. Because they are two separate school districts, they are not a supervisory district. They are a supervisory union. And they're both made up of the same towns.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
It's not defined, I'm still on the definitions page
Okay.
here, and I don't need you to go back to it, but I'm just gonna make a comment that in all of these definitions of union schools and unified unions and all of that, there do exist some modified unified union school districts, which I'm not, I mean, I happen to live in the boundaries of one, and it's not a great system that, once these are complicated enough, once we add in modifying them, it becomes even more complicated. So I guess my comment would be that the more we can keep things less modified, I'll just use that comment, the better. It is a complicated system. These are tough enough. When you modify them, they're even harder. So I'm not,
I think that goes to the goal here of
yeah.
the goal of pre-K to 12 unified union school districts.
Yes.
Nobody wants to complicate things further.
And I mean, chapter 11 is set up theoretically so that at any point in time, any school district in Vermont can explore forming a new union school district with any other school district in Vermont, and they need zero direction from you all. It is an execution of the law responsibility, which is not a legislative responsibility. And so the chart I just took what is in current law. It doesn't specifically address modified union school districts, which I don't even know if we need to get into the examples of that. But if a modified union school district wanted to explore forming or joining another union school district, that's for them to figure out in the field. So I don't know that you need to provide. I think that what you have works for the field, and I think depending on what your goals are, what you may potentially want to really be focused on when we're talking about who is represented on the study committee, depending on the type of union school district joining the study committee, is do you want to deviate from that process? Not necessarily have we accounted for every weird exception that is out in the field. Does that make sense? Okay. So I started with this point of saying Chapter 11 is written in a way that when the study committee is formed, there's an assumption of what type of union school district they are exploring. I have made a note that it is a policy decision if you are going to be prescriptive. And right now it sounds like you are leaning towards requiring exploration of formation of a unified union school district. So that's great because we start with, so first column is the type of school district being proposed, then the type of school district on the study committee, and then the study committee membership. So we're starting.
You share it again.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Yep. So starting with the goal of a proposed unified union school district. If it's an existing union elementary or union high school district. And now I'm over here.
Should remember that this is within the context of who is on the merger study committee. Current law.
Thank you. The interests of the existing union school district shall be represented by its member districts on the study committee. What's a member district? Member district means a school district which can be a union school district that is a member of a union elementary school district or a union high school district for certain grades, pre-K through grade 12, and is a distinct district organized to provide for the education of its resident students for all other grades, whether by operating one or more schools or paying tuition. So a union elementary school district can be made up of a bunch of, their member districts could be, let's say it's a union elementary school district. Maybe its member districts are a bunch of union high school districts. Or a union high school district. And a town school district that is also organized to provide, anyway, I don't want to get into specifics. But just this is the definition for member school district. And when a study committee is looking at forming a unified union school district, then the interests of the existing union school district are represented by its member districts. So if a member district is a union school district, then it is represented by the union school district. And if the member district is a town school district, then it is the town school district. If the existing union school district does not have any member districts, because all towns for which it is organized are members of both a union elementary school district and a union high school district, which is the example that Rep. Quimby gave, then the existing union school district shall represent its own interests on the study committee, and the towns within it shall not participate on its behalf. If a town is a member of both a union elementary school district and a union high school district, is not independently organized as a district that is responsible for the education of students in any grade, and does not have a town school district board, but notwithstanding other provisions to the contrary, to the extent possible, the boards of the union elementary and union high school districts of which the town is a member shall make a reasonable attempt jointly to appoint a member to the study committee who resides in the town. So the union school district is representing its own interests. But in appointing members to the study committee, this is saying to the extent possible, those members should represent the different towns.
So it says if the town does not by, sorry, possible. Again, I'm trying to think concrete example. So let's say Kingdom East, where I live, is a union, is a school district, elementary, it's K-8, that's all they operate. But if on the study committee, a town nearby like Kirby that doesn't operate anything, is that what we're talking about?
No, we're not talking about operation at
This
all.
is, I think at its core, this is to say,
For education of students in any grade, so what would that?
So it's different. So
Yeah.
responsible for education of students just means
Yeah.
it's organized to provide education in those grades. It
Right.
doesn't tell you how it is
Right.
provided.
So they tuition, so they are providing the education.
Correct.
Tuition.
Yes.
So
At its core, this is just to clarify that this is a process that is about school districts coming together, not about towns coming
Correct.
together.
who's on the study committee? Okay.
Surely though, when the school districts come together, if they're going to do their job with any authenticity, they will be talking to the people in those towns, right?
Sure. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's how they do it is up to them. But I would just say, just that the people on that study committee
Right.
will be from towns in that district.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, is there any language that we can put in that is like, you have to have one meeting in every town that,
I would leave that up to them to do.
I think the less prescriptive, more likely.
The hope. Because when you do that,
Consideration.
yeah, I would trust local people to make those decisions as the best way to organize the meetings rather than us deciding for them.
yeah, I just want to make sure they do the right thing.
What you consider to be the right thing, yes. Yeah, I'll just say, having been through this, I'll just tell you, people were, it was much easier for people to come to a central location with a large facility with all the amenities that come with that than to be out in the hinterlands for one of these meetings where none of that existed.
The hinterlands being the small towns.
Yeah, because where there wasn't, at that point in time, there wasn't high-speed internet. There wasn't, it was far from many people. So what the right thing is I would leave up to them.
All right. So we're talking about study committees and we recognize you're explaining how the study committee is made up of the members of the Union School District. What I guess I'm trying to process in my head is if there's a Union School District that has, I'm just going to throw an example out, a concrete example out. Using it.
Helps me think better.
One large town and 3 small towns surrounding it. And that district will be sending members to the study committee. And they're joining others around them on that study committee. There is no prescription of who or how many, or is that a policy decision we will need to make?
So the baseline, sorry, the internet here is
Yeah.
not helpful. So this, membership on the study committee shall be the same as the proportion of the school district's
Proportional.
average daily membership, so it's proportional.
Okay, great. That helps a lot because, that's the first question that always comes up.
Mhm.
We're gonna be dominated by large communities and we're not gonna be dominated, we're gonna, all the small communities will dominate us and, so there's always that. So this helps. Thank you.
I would say that's a policy
Yeah.
decision you can deviate from, should you choose to. Okay, so that's Union Elementary. If we're still in the proposed unified union school district, if it is an existing unified union school district coming to the table, and this is an important distinction, there's a whole separate statute for enlarging a current district. What we're talking about is a study committee to create a completely new municipality. So the existing unified union school district will represent its own interests on the study committee, and the towns within it shall not participate on its behalf. To the extent possible, though, the board of the existing unified union school district shall make a reasonable attempt to appoint members to the study committee who reside in each town within the district. And then I think for the sake of time, I don't think we need to talk about membership on a proposed union school district study committee if we're not going that way. Okay.
So in sort of the path we are headed down, with, a facilitator bringing people together for a required study committee, we now so I have put on the table that the study committee is to be looking at a K-12 configuration. Because I think that's been the goal sort of everybody all along. We now understand how representation on the study committee will work. I think we just need to maybe have legislative council think if there's any sort of pitfalls in that, like if we only have three, let's say it's an area with 3 unified union school districts talking about merging into one, are there any issues like you would have a really small study committee?
No, because it doesn't say, the law doesn't say it's one member. It says that membership is proportional.
Okay.
So I think that the study, and I believe. Hold on.
I realize this is confusing because of all these terms thrown around, but the real point here is that we've got existing law that we can use.
Existing law says, section 706, subsection A says, with the advice of the superintendent or superintendents, the boards shall establish a budget for the study committee's work and shall determine the number of persons to serve on the study committee. So it is totally up to the study committee itself, how many people, how many humans, butts in seats. And then that has to have proportional representation to the ADM of the districts at the table. And then depending on the type of district is going to dictate where those appointments are coming from. And if there's any, to the extent possible, language about representation of the individual towns and union school districts. So to answer your question, I think under current law, yes, you could have a very tiny study committee because they decided it should only be 3 people.
That's their decision.
Yes.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And some of this is going to depend, the last draft that we looked at, which is still the current draft, has the facilitator grouping study committees based on the Conlin map or a map,
The evolving map.
evolving map. The evolving map. And so you will have an opportunity to see like, oh, this makes sense in my head, but when I'm looking at it as a study committee getting together, do I need to make any deviations from the law?
Right. And I think it's going to be very important that the ability of bringing people together, and I think we have it as it's a guiding document.
Yes.
It's not a hard and fast document.
And
Because a group of superintendents could work with the facilitator saying, it'd be better if this, and this were the grouping.
we just ask for the facilitator to document why there was any deviation from the map and then report back to you all.
Yeah.
And again, that language you can continue to play with that language. I don't remember where we were.
Yeah. All right, any other questions here? Is anybody, yeah, please, go ahead,
I
Beth.
guess my question, because we're talking about pitfalls of moving this forward. Whether this unified union school district pre-K through 12 is mandatory or guidance, I think could be a pitfall. Because again, on the ground, as people are coming together, it is making something mandatory going to be a pitfall to keep people from coming together and doing this work? Just a question. Or having it guidance with flexibility saying,
Yeah, I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on it. I mean, as I think about what the goal is here, it is to
Yeah, what's the
create.
goal?
Okay, but are
we mandate
to the
it,
exclusion of
to-
low hanging fruit that might be out
is
there.
it going to say, well, I'm not, or just the idea that it's being mandated, being a pitfall to the work going forward?
I mean, we could write, I assume we could write sort of fuzzy guidance language rather than hard and fast that would say that the goal is pre-K 12, however, non-pre-K 12 unified districts can be considered.
In the same way that the guidance on the map, if they don't follow the guidance, they have to basically explain or report why they deviate. So
Well, also, I think it's important to note that, and correct if I'm wrong, please. Chapter 11 continues to exist, period.
yes,
So therefore, they can still get together and do that.
A great decision point to flag for you all. Do you want to continue to allow? So chapter 11 says you can only formally participate on one study committee at a time. So if you are requiring formal participation, I would say technically the law says you can't then go out on your own.
Right.
Um,
I guess, and I'm really just thinking out loud here, I would like to have every attempt be to be a pre-K to 12 one, and then if that study committee says, we do not recommend moving forward with this, the process at that point ends for that group of people, that group of school districts, and they can then start if they want, can then start
voluntarily.
voluntarily merging.
What if that group of school districts is able to identify, they don't think a unified union school district would work? Okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean, if you can noodle that a little bit to if they fail at one or fail to come forward with a proposal to,
The term chapter 11 uses is, it is inadvisable.
if they decide it's inadvisable to move forward, then, somehow fast track their ability to come up with a different idea. Go to Leanne first and then you, Josh.
This might be getting a little bit too into the weeds, but I'm thinking about like the whole, like the CBA issues involved with this. And some of our districts have pre-K within their CBA and some don't. So that would be like a detail that would need to be taken care of. Additionally, is that they.
Yes, well, I think that CBA's salaries, all of that are one of the major stumbling blocks we have when it comes to mandating bigger, larger districts.
Well, right, but the
It-
difference here is that pre-K may not even be unionized yet, so isn't that an additional, I don't know what I'm talking about, never
We
mind.
dealt with it in Act 46.
Okay,
Yeah, well, I think that, one of the reasons of bringing people together who know one another well is they might say this merger is inadvisable because bringing together the CBAs is going to cost $5 million. I mean, the CBAs are one of the things that a merger study committee would have to look at.
There is, that came out of Act 46 and we added to, when we redid chapter 11, subchapter 3 of chapter 53, which is the contract compensation and sick leave chapter in Title 16, is the transition of employees. And it talks about transition of employees to a new school district and also a new supervisory union. So there is provisions in the law for how those collectively bargained agreements are treated, how seniority is treated, all of that is accounted for.
I guess my question is it more or less complicated when, because like, I feel like there would be a difference in its level of complication if they already had a CBA that they were part of versus.
I guess I've never heard of a CBA that didn't include
Well, that's what I'm-
teachers that are working within a school district.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I more meant like are there any districts that don't have a pre-K program?
Sure.
Right, so that would be, but we would still be asking them now to add a pre-K, never mind, this is all too complicated for me. I don't even know that.
I think the fact is that any teacher that is teaching within a school building is
Right.
covered by a CBA.
So that is true.
Regardless, I don't think that they differentiate whether they teach pre-K or third grade.
And clarifying on that, providing for pre-K through, oh, sorry, Josh, 12 education does not mean you actually teach the program. You can provide for it through tuitioning.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Through
Yeah.
private pre-K provide.
That's getting.
Doesn't mean you have, everybody has a program in their building.
Josh.
Trying not to forget that, so I was like, so hypothetically, you have this study committee that has 4 current districts of some sort underneath it. and they find it advisable to merge. However, there's one district out of that four that is like, no, we don't find it advisable. We don't want to do this, but they're saying it would be. Can they remove themselves from the whole process?
So that's a great question.
So it all depends on if that school district has been identified as necessary, or I believe, let me see the right word. Advisable.
Yeah.
By who?
Study committee.
So the study committee has all the power to force a district that is part of that study committee to merge,
No,
even if they don't want
Voters
to.
ultimately have to.
Yes.
The voters of the towns.
Yeah.
It depends on the membership.
So is it the voter of all of the
It
districts?
depends on the type of school district that has a seat at the table.
So potentially you could have it where three districts are gonna choose the fate of one district.
No. Well, maybe, so,
That's why I said potential.
But they're put on the ballot against their will.
Right, right. They may not
But,
want.
it's important to remember that when it is, the way it currently exists, any district that votes, if you've got 5 districts voting to form a unified union school district, if just one of them votes no, at this point, nothing happens. Everybody has to vote yes.
yes. For the necessary districts.
Yeah.
Right. And then it goes to the vote of the communities from that point.
It's vote of the, remember, it's not about towns, it's about districts.
Depends on the
Well,
district.
the voters of the 3 towns, one town that exists within that district.
Yeah, so if
So
you've
the
got
first vote is by the people on the committee to see, saying whether this particular district is advisable or not,
or necessary.
or necessary. Should that committee, a group of members of that committee say that they are not, or they need to exist, they do not need to exist and to be part of this, then when they make that study that says we should merge, then it goes to the electorate of that new larger potential.
No.
This is what I'm trying to
Mhm. If the majority of members of the study committee vote, it is advisable to form the union school district, then the report first goes, and draft articles of agreement first go to the secretary and state board, and you need the state board to make an approval before anything goes to the electorate. So there is a stop along the way before it goes to the electorate. Then, once the state board, there's approval by the state board, I'm reading right from section 710 of Title 16. The voters of each school district identified as necessary or advisable shall vote whether to form the proposed union school district. So if you have 3 town school districts and 1 union school district that are members of the study committee, then the 3 town school districts each individually have to have a majority of their voters approve it. And the majority of the voters of the union school district also need to approve it.
So if one of the, let's say the union school district, the bigger one, doesn't vote, then that vote fails only in that district where it passes in the other 3 town districts, the whole thing unravels.
Or if that union school district has been identified as a necessary school district to the formation of the union school district, yes.
If they are not found as necessary.
If they are advisable members and they vote no, then the union school district forms, assuming all the necessary members voted yes, and the advisable school district goes on its way as it exists. If the advisable district votes yes, then they become members of the union school
So
district.
there's a way out for a town, for a district that does not want to be part of this thing by just if they're voting it down. And then the rest of, then the whole thing falls apart. Or if they're advisable, if they vote no, they go on their merry way. If they vote yes, they join.
I struggle with answering yes to that question because of the use of the word town.
I mean,
I was gonna say district.
district. So if,
But yes, the answer to your question, I think, is yes, that if it's advisable and not necessary, formation can happen. They don't have to be part of it.
and if it's, what's the other
And if
one?
they're necessary,
The
and
whole thing
that,
falls
and
apart.
that town school district votes no, the whole thing.
Okay, that's where I was trying to get to. Thank you for.
But that's current law. Yeah.
That's per law, right? Now, we could change that and say majority of voters voting. If they all vote yes, it happens.
And I'm not trying to complicate things, but I do think it's important that we understand what is out there in Vermont. So we're talking about school districts, but some towns are members of a union school district, and the same town can also have their own school district.
Correct.
Correct.
So, you could have your town actually divided into two separate, like one could be necessary, that school district could be necessary, and the other school district might be advisable. Or you could,
I think in the universe of possibilities, yes. The only way you are a single town as a member of two different school districts is if it's a member of a non-unified union school district. It's either a town school district for some grades, or it is part of a union elementary school district. And if the goal is for unified union school districts, then it is likely that that town is the school districts that that town is a member of are going to be identified both as necessary, because you're looking at K through 12 and not separate chunks of grades.
that's looking at it from the
Yeah.
perspective of the study committee.
It's looking at it as from the perspective of the language I have been asked to draft.
So I'm just, I'm literally, when I started this, I said this, I'm gonna say it again, I'm not trying to complicate this, but it does feel like the town might not agree with what you just said, because they have two separate. They have a town school district, and then they're part of a unified for different grades.
Right, but if they,
Forget it. Yeah. Just presenting the complications that could arise. And I guess I add one more thing on top of it. It's part of my concerns about not doing K-12, goal being unified K-12, pre-K-12 districts. In the end, I guess I'm gonna just say it from the reason I'm saying this, for children, students and the kids we're trying to serve, a unified union K-12, unified union K-12, pre-K-12 district is optimal.
Allows for better coordination of everything from pre-K up to the end. All right. Further discussion, further direction for Beth. If I don't hear anything, I will say we can go to the caucus of the whole at 10, and then we have to be on the floor at 10:30 for the joint hearing. While there's this pause in the action, let me just sort of update everybody on like what else is going on in the world of all of this. I met with the chair of Ways and Means this morning. They, knowing sort of this path we're going down, they're going to start giving some thought to financial incentives that we might be able to create if districts choose to merge into newer, larger districts. I'm not sure they'll come up with anything, but they would really like to give it some thought as to what there might be. There is money available. So we appropriated money to the AOE for merger transition grants, including CISAs, or there's money there to use, as well as for contracted services to support school boards in a merger transition. So that exists. We may need to put some more specifics around it, like it'll be this much. So I'll put that out there. Human Services is been discussing pre-K. They are going to basically send the language to us, not a bill, but the language to add to whatever we're doing. We'll have it presented to us. It is all language that only becomes effective once a foundation formula is created. So it's not doing anything until then. I would call it also, it's not language is going to rework how everything is done. So it's very similar to what we have, with some additional requirements for licensed teachers to be teaching in private pre-K settings, as well as just some money parity, but only once we go to a foundation formula. Commerce is tackling CTE. They have a longer timeline because they have a separate CTE bill that came over from the Senate. We have all heard the challenges of CTE. We've all heard the challenges of what the AOE would like to see and sort of what exists today, and trying to find some common ground there. They're going to work on those struggles in consultation with us. It's going to be really hard. It's the whole funding of it. I just wanted to give everybody that update as well. Thank you. Further questions? Anything sort of specific to the maps? I'm getting some feedback online, which I just will sort of try to incorporate. It's the CISA lines that I'm sort of most concerned about now, but they also seem to be the easiest thing to solve. So when we come back, let's talk about that.
Talk about the
CISA, the
line.
CISA lines, not the other lines. And again, they, I think that there will be language that can adjust those based on once somebody's out the field feeling it.
But along with it, this will probably happen, we'll talk about CISA lines, the idea that study committees would be formed from supervisory unions now. I'm not saying lines around them, but would be the goal. Say these two supervisory unions want to get together and talk about forming a single unified union school district. Some of the lines on here, the colored ones.
Yes.
Don't include current supervisory unions completely.
Right.
Something about that. So that's something we kind of
That's going to be
look at.
important.
I mean, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, because in some sense, they make a lot more sense
Right.
currently than current, but it may make that more challenging. I need to understand how we'd overcome.
Right. And again, the lines are guidance only anyway.
I'm just understood, but I think, just like I've always said with maps, once the lines are there, people start to peel back the layers and questions start coming.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so continue to think. Let's plan to be back here at, keep an eye on your text.
Keep an eye on text.
We'll need to be on the floor. Well, the floor starts at 1.
Yeah.
We need to be on the floor because miscellaneous ed bill. After that, let's plan to come back here after the miscellaneous ed bill. I suspect we will be going back and forth.
There's roll calls.
Because of roll calls. And I also want to be sensitive that there are things people want to be up there for as well. That's obviously your prerogative. All right. Let's take advantage then of this pause, caucus of the whole, joint hearing.